Welcome to this time travel make a wish holiday review of a somewhat okay, only in theaters for a week Shudder horror movie called It's a Wonderful Knife, based on, of course, the premise from It's a Wonderful Life, and starring an entire gaggle of pretty decent actors for a movie that's a pretty much like a Shudder film, or it's a film that's going to be on Shudder. I couldn't quite figure that out. But I was pleasantly surprised through half of the movie. I wouldn't say it's a great horror movie, but I enjoyed it. I believe this was a this was kind of like a sneak into the theater, very last minute dump of a film. It didn't really have any press whatsoever. There's no marketing for it other than like a trailer. And I don't remember reading anything about it until hearing about it like a week ago, and I couldn't even find it online until I found out it was playing in the theater this week. Is this correct, Katie? Is this like a dump in the theater just to get it out there to make a buck?
I have no idea. I watched this at Telluride Horror Show a month ago, so I've had it in my brain for over a month when I saw it in the theater.
Yeah, it feels like it was. Let's dump this in the theater. The actor strike is over.
Maybe, I mean, it's the holiday season, get it out there, especially with Thanksgiving. So, I mean, it's a fun horror double feature of holiday mayhem.
Right. I'm just kind of curious if it would have been better if it was actually dumped in December, like Silent Night coming out soon. Not to be confused with any of the slasher film Silent Night films. This Silent Night's film we will get to in a review. Like John Woo might have been too much big holiday horror action competition, maybe. Also with Aquaman coming out in December and more. I don't know. Maybe it was just an overstuffed December for films. Who knows? But I think it could have done better if dumped in December. I mean, my theater told me we sell maybe a couple tickets for this a day. That's it.
Well, like you said, I don't feel like there's much promotion for it. And especially with this weekend, from my knowledge, as since this SAG after strike is done, there's a lot of films that are being promoted. There's a lot of films coming out this particular weekend. I mean,
Right.
I think just off the top of my head, I can think of five or six on this weekend. It makes sense. I mean, Thanksgiving is next week. I know in Chicago, all of the Chicago public schools are completely shut down next week. So if you're gonna do some movies, like put them out right before Thanksgiving, right when everyone's gonna be home, they're doing stuff with family and friends. Let's go see a movie. Anything that's out there. Some of them may be sold out, so who knows? It's a Wonderful Knife could make some cash. But one thing about the film, Tyler McIntyre, who is the director, he directed one of my recent faves, Tragedy Girls. Actually, reviewed that on Horror 101 with Dr. AC. I Tyler was at the screening of It's a Wonderful Life in Colorado, and I got to talk to him about the film. I mean, as Chris said, it's at with Knife, it's very punny. With the Frank Capra, It's a Wonderful Life. It stars Jane Widdop, who plays Winnie Carruthers. She is going to go to NYC. She's in her little town of Angel Falls, and her dad is a real estate developer and stuff. Not the top one, because there's a guy who's kind of a jerk who is played by Justin Long, whose name is Henry Waters. I feel like that's like a pun on different horror uh, antagonists, but I can't think of who. I mean, obviously Henry Porter was serial killer, but Henry Waters just sounds like a good like serial killer name for some reason, and a good like bad guy name to me. Uh, it's the annual end of season kind of festivities, and then people start to get killed. Winnie saves the day, saves her brother. Unfortunately, her best friend and her grandpa die, and as well as two others.
Yes,
So
played by William B. Davis
William
on the
B.
X
Davis,
Files.
who's the
Yep,
smoking man from
yep,
X-Files.
and guest
Uh,
on my show this year.
nice. But
Yeah, a
unfortunately,
gentleman, by the way.
there's been four deaths, and now it's a year later. This is where the film throws me. Now, in It's a Wonderful Life, the Frank Capra film, James Stewart, you see his life unfold. Like uh he helps a pharmacist like make sure he doesn't poison some kid. He saves his brother from drowning. He does all these different things. And then when his life is kind of going to absolute crap, he says he wished he wasn't born. And that's understandable because there's a lot of stuff that's going on. He thinks his uncle's a drunk and lost all this money, and he think that they're gonna have like to tear down or shut down the loan company that's helped all these people live and do all these things. I can understand, his situation and all the stuff that he did, that you see throughout. With this film, though, you go from one night where Winnie did things, she helped save her brother. It is then a year later, and Winnie was kind of, I mean, her brother is an athlete and stuff. He gets injured, so he can't play football anymore, if I recall. And Winnie's like she's an apt pupil. She's going to go to New York. She's going to do art. She's like very, very smart. She has all these goals to do all these things. It's a year later after everything happened. From my knowledge, she didn't go to New York. She stayed home.
She didn't get into the college.
Yeah, she didn't get into the college. She is very depressed. Her brother has gone on to do real estate with her dad. Winnie though did save the town and kill the killer that had killed the four people. I feel like that even though it's just been a year, that is very overlooked, and it was somewhat, it's like, oh, that's like she got a pat on the back or something, and then no one really cared about it or something like that, which I thought was kind of like weird. And then plus her parents like are really bestowing like all of these things on her brother and sort of ignoring her, which again I think is weird. And it's at this point that I feel like the only other person in the whole film that is kind of like keyed into that is the actress Catherine Isabel, who everyone should know from Ginger Snaps and American Mary,
Oh yes.
who plays her aunt, who's like, what is going on? And that to me was a little off. So Winnie's boyfriend, she finds out it's cheating on her. And he's like, well, you've just been kind of down, which has been, very tropey, stereotypical boyfriend, you've really been a bitch since your mom died yesterday, kind of thing. And then, when he goes and says, I wish I was never born, her wish comes true because of some weird, nothing like an angel like in the original film, but more of like some aurora borealis that technically shouldn't even be in the city where she is. But whatever, there's
They're nowhere
magic.
near the Arctic Circle.
This is movie magic, so we're gonna let it happen. So then, since Winnie did not kill the killer, her brother died, and since she did not kill a killer, not only did the four people die from the beginning, but now he's like that person has quadrupled, or it's been like I think like 25 people or 30 people have died since that night,
Yep.
which is huge. She tries to see her parents, which her dad, Joel McHale, is now, not having it. Their lives have just been completely devastated since the death of their son. Her mom has been, and I'm all for women's sexual empowerment, all that stuff. But I gotta say, she's like whoring it up in their own house. Like she's got some boyfriend that she brings over and is like doing it in the kitchen because Joel McHale is like distracted. It's been a year. I understand that people deal with grief in a different way, but this is just was so far from reality for me that I'm like, okay, this just does not make, yeah. Also, and this was a thing that I actually asked the director about, Justin Long, love him, love what he does in film, all that stuff. Unfortunately, his character, Henry Waters, it just seems like he's doing this really, it just seems like he's doing an impression of Walter Goggins in The Righteous Gemstones. I mean, his extreme veneers, the hair, the overtan, but it's specifically the accent that really, if he had some other accent or something, and maybe was, I don't know, the way he does his accent, it's just, it honestly sounds like he's trying to copy Walter Goggins. Walter Goggins. That
He
was
sounds like
odd to me.
he sounds like a bad impersonation that Adam Sandler would be trying to do. If you remember seeing the movie Hugo's Halloween, Adam Sandler pointed out that this is the way. Like I swear I read this in an interview somewhere. He's like, this is the way Jewish New England people sound. And having worked with a guy who's on the radio before me, who does a show called Shireen Jewish Radio, he does not sound anything like Adam Sandler.
Okay. I will say though that the actor Sean Deppner, who plays Buck Waters, again, great names. I love these names for these people. He is now the sheriff in this alternate, the reality where
The brother.
Winnie was never born. And he has some of the best lines in the film. He's the comic relief because he's just a big derp. And
Oh,
he's great. But
like when he
one
gets
of
his
the things,
OnlyFans.
yeah, well, there's that, but also when he's the sheriff and he was like, should we have some more caution tape? I feel like we should be more cautious. I don't, it's, can we get more caution tape around here? I feel like we need, and it's a great delivery. There are some things though in the film that, she sees her boyfriend who was with the girl that cheated on her and realizes like, okay, well, that seems like that worked. But there's also a relationship who was a girl who was not even an acquaintance. She barely knew her name and talked to her once the night of everything going down that went in the her world before, and then now is in this one. And then I don't know. Again, that's kind of weird to me how that happens. I'm being very vague about it because honestly, it was kind of an odd thing. There's this girl that everyone in the town, and when I say everyone, I mean adults too, which does not make much sense to me. Even I don't care what year it is. I don't really, I don't know. It was very Stand By Me when the big kid is throwing up, how the adults made fun of him as well, the children. It's kind of like that. They were trying to copy that with this young girl who, for no reason whatsoever, I felt deserved to be treated that way. I don't know. It's just weird. um did I like the film? I had issues with it. Again, the Justin Long impersonation was kind of weird. I thought that the costume and the getup for the killer looked great, but I also thought it looked great in Disney Plus's Moon Knight, which it looked like it's an obvious, honestly, an exact copy of what this killer is supposed to be looking like in this film. I like that he's got head to toe and he's like wearing a cape and all that stuff, and he's in white, cool, making, getting away from the black, doing,
Not a lot of
getting
angel
away from
killers
all
out
that
there.
stuff. Although it will, any sort of blood on that, you're definitely going to have like multiple outfits and stuff like that, because that those are or know how to get those stains out and do a lot of washing. But there's it did have in the first part of the film, it did have the aspect of horror that I'm always loving, when you got a 6'4" killer and then you realize when they do the reveal the killer is 5'6", like, nope, not gonna work. They did that in this, and then they also kind of changed it up because there's a multiple reveals. I know I'm kind of going around this film, but I just had more issues with it than I actually liked it. I feel like there's a weird I mean, they had to change it up from Frank Capra, obviously, so didn't get sued and all that stuff. But
Is a
there's
Wonderful
definitely
Life
like
public domain?
I don't think so.
Oh.
But there's a weird supernatural thing about it that I thought was kind of odd. It's definitely LGBTQ positive. Awesome for that. I love every character and supporting everything that was going on in the film regarding that. The ending I thought was a little quick, and I don't know. I just, here's the thing. I loved Tragedy Girls. I thought Tragedy Girls was great. I also thought that Tragedy Girls seemed like it was more stylized than this one. The kills in Tragedy Girls were like better and grittier and just up close. And this had a lot of blood. I thought that was great, but I thought that the budget on this was probably more, but it looked cheaper, if that makes sense. I think they were definitely trying to do that Hallmark
Oh,
thing with it, which
the
can do
music
that.
is
You have a studio
terrible.
town, so that I mean, it's very familiar and all that stuff. But even the way the film was just seemed like it was, I don't know, it just seemed like it was less polished. But I love Tyler McIntyre, and I think he's a great director. I know he didn't write this one, but I don't know. I uh the parallel universe that Winnie gets in is definitely horrible in different ways, but there are also just things about her world that just seem like they were just weird and crazy and all that stuff. So, I mean, I can understand why she wanted to, say, I wish I was never born, because it seemed like, what was the point? My friends are still dead. My family doesn't really give a crap about me, and it seems like no one does. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's going to come to Shudder. Watch it then. It's fine to watch for that, but I definitely feel like there are other especially with Christmas time and stuff like that, there's other holiday films that far surpass it, even recent ones.
Yeah,
So that's my review.
you're right on the money about the Hallmark movie style of it all. Because if you ever watched any absolute crap Hallmark holiday movie, and there are what, thousands of them out there now. They said they believe, because of how many are put out every year by Hallmark since the '90s, because that's when it really started. Because that's when the Hallmark channel started. Um, there is so not all Christmas music is copyrighted. And by the way, so Katie and I are both wrong and right about It's a Wonderful Life. There are rights issues with It's a Wonderful Life. It is copywritten, but it's also got some weird copyright issues as well. So it's very ambiguous. But if you play it on TV, you got to pay for it. If you want to play it in the theater, you do have to pay for it. Adapting it apparently might be free, but I digress. This is back to the Hallmark movie aspect of what Katie's comment is. The music in this movie is atrocious. Okay, for God's sakes, pay the effing. I'm gonna want to play this on the radio. Pay the effing fee and buy real holiday music, because your generic crap is just crap. It was awful to listen to. As I heard Jingle Bells for like a second, and that was it. And I mean, like, Jingle Bells, Batman spells. I mean, for God's sakes, okay? Pay for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Pay for, I know Mariah Carey is probably very expensive, but pay for something that people know. Pay for some Chuck Berry. Pay for some Elvis Presley, the Beach Boys, somebody. For God's sakes. Because that was the only big distract for me from the movie, other than the wonky, just the science of it all would probably make Neil deGrasse Tyson like blow his brains out. I would love to get his opinion, like hear his opinion on some of these cheap sci-fi movies that try to do time travel and explain the aurora borealis, and why is the aurora borealis like in their area, because they even point out we're nowhere near the Arctic Circle. Um, that was very funny. And okay, so the here's something that's not necessarily a plot spoiler, because we're not going to reveal who the killer is, but the energy of the plot line is she kills the killer and then makes a wish later on, after life isn't so great for her, to not be born. And then there's another killer, and then possibly another killer. But the most bonkers thing that made me go, what the, in the theater, was when they explained that the aurora borealis energy is of the killer or something. It's that effect, and I was just like, that's nuts and stupid. And And then the Aurora Borealis gets angry, and I'm not even kidding. Think about what color anger represents without referencing the Hulk, and it happens. I was like, ah. Oh, by the way, the best line in the movie is when she says that I'm wearing a tracksuit that even a lesbian would never wear. Catherine Isabel's about to correct her on her inconsiderate comment, but then corrects herself and goes, "Oh, wait a minute, you're absolutely right. We would never wear anything that bad." I laughed out loud so hard at that scene. It was hilarious. But Katie's right. Buck, who is the brother of Justin Long's character, is pretty damn funny. Um, I give it to the cast. The cast in this film is amazing. Like they really did a good job. I want more Catherine Isabel and everything. God, I really wish we could have more Catherine Isabel and everything. But I digress. Um, go see this film. Go see it when it comes out in Shutter. You're never gonna find it in theaters, by the way. If it's any indication, my local theaters don't have it anymore after today because I was gonna wait till Monday to go see it. I realized I had to go see it tonight. Of course, when I'm sitting in the theaters, the first thing that pops up is Shutter. I was like, damn it, I should have waited until this was on Shutter. I lost a
I mean,
little bit of
it
sleep
is
last
nice to
night.
see it in the theater because you get to see, really engulf that whole town and
What
how it is a cute town. I
it,
mean,
what
I will give it that.
what is so damn funny is this movie is playing back to back at the local drive-in movie theater this weekend with Thanksgiving.
And I think that's great. I mean, I think it's a great holiday horror double feature. I mean, do I think that Thanksgiving is a superior horror film to it? Yes.
Yes.
But I mean, it's the two horror films that are coming out that are very seasonal. Might as well do it back to back. And
Is
I
there
think,
any amazing Christmas horror movie? I'm gonna say Krampus because I love the director Michael Dougherty. I'm gonna say Violent Night, but that's not a horror movie. That's an action. That's Die Hard action movie. Krampus right there. Good stuff. There we go. Um, Silent Night. There's a film called Silent Night that came out in 2013, I believe. I'm friends with the director on Twitter. We chat every once in a while. I really like that movie. It is considered by people who aren't paying attention to be called a remake of the original Silent Night, Deadly Night. But when I had the director on my show, we even talked about this. He goes, "There is nothing in my movie that is a remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night," and I'm like, "No, there isn't." In fact, I prefer your movie much more than the original Silent Night, Deadly Night. I know, blasphemy, but still, there's no great. I keep trying to say Halloween. There's no great holly jolly horror movie out there, in my opinion. They all have different pieces of themselves, but this is worth a watch. Check it out on Shutter with the family this holiday season. Uh, it will be on Shutter by this holiday season. Um, I think somebody should do a documentary on all of the holiday horror movies throughout the
yeah,
year.
because I mean, the fact that Bob Clark made Black Christmas and then he went and did A Christmas Story, which are two very
Yeah,
different
and,
on the pendulum of holiday films, but they're
yep.
both like complete classics. Like Black Christmas is an amazing horror film.
I'm hit or miss on it, and I absolutely cannot stand the two other films that have carried the name. So, but I saw it once upon a time, but I think I was desaturated by slasher movies by the time I saw it. I was in my late to mid 20s or 30s, so I had been desaturated by horror at that point to really appreciate it as a classic. Do I own it on Blu-ray? Yeah, I have the Scream Factory version. But I digress. Go see this movie when it comes to Shutter. If you can go see it in theaters at the drive-in, Mendon Twin Drive-in here in Massachusetts, we'll be playing it. They said for 2 weeks back to back with Thanksgiving. So if you can't see it the weekend that we're recording this, maybe see the week that I will be posting this. Thank you everyone. Like, subscribe, and comment. Check out the rest of our reviews here on the Radio Horror YouTube channel. We'll be back with more holiday goodness throughout the month of December here on Radio Horror.